Harry and Meghan torched what little was left of their relationship with the royal family and what little was left, frankly, of their own reputation. So I'm not sure how this all plays out, but it's a mess, and Charles may have to deal with it.
It's a Shakespearean example of how hereditary privilege magnifies both honour and disgrace.
And all the racism claims turned out to be bullshit. The mental health claim, all of it was bullshit, designed to damage and attack the royal family.
There is a no-holds-barred, warts-and-all tell-all story waiting to be shared with the world.
But I think she's lost respect to British people.
Not the glossy magazine covers or the palace-approved portraits, but a faded image buried deep in forgotten corners of the internet. Prince Harry discovered it during a late-night search through old files, and what he found would unravel the entire narrative of his life. In the corner of that yacht photo, barely visible among the champagne glasses and sun-soaked smiles, sat a navy blue canvas bag. The logo meant nothing to most people. To Harry, it was a revelation that would expose years of carefully orchestrated deception. The bag bore the emblem of Soho House. This wasn't just another private club where celebrities sipped overpriced cocktails. This was a gateway into a world of calculated connections, where actresses became acquainted with billionaires, where careers were crafted behind velvet ropes, and where ambitious women learned to navigate the corridors of power. The fairy tale the world had been sold suddenly looked very different. For years, we'd been told a story of chance encounters and destiny. An American actress meets a British prince through mutual friends. Love blossoms, despite the odds. Tradition bends to accommodate modern romance. The palace smiled, the press swooned, and millions believed they were witnessing history's most authentic love story. But that photograph told a different tale. The woman in the image wasn't just any aspiring actress. She'd been circulating through Soho House's most exclusive gatherings since at least 2005, not as a member, but as something else entirely.
The videos embolden conspiracy theorists. They're calling it Megspiracy, and the pair are being subjected to yet more merciless ridicule.
The affairs of the royal family tells you that we are living in quite bizarre times.
She's shooting a movie now.
She's playing herself in a movie.
Yeah, she's which is, I guess, acting.
Yeah, look.
This is full disgrace and pretty much unprecedented as far as we can see.
So, I mean, this is a much bigger problem than I think people have realised.
The irony is earth-shattering, isn't it? Harry and Meghan are the Duke and Duchess of gaslighting themselves, the entire show.
The timeline that millions had accepted without question suddenly developed cracks. Harry's discovery sent him down a rabbit hole of archived photos, forgotten blog posts, and society pages that painted a picture far removed from the official narrative. In nearly every image from those pre-royal years, the same patterns emerged. The same venues, the same faces, the same calculated positioning that suggested these weren't random social gatherings, but carefully curated introductions. At the center of this web sat one man whose name rarely made headlines, but whose influence shaped destinies, Marcus Anderson. To the outside world, Anderson was simply a hospitality consultant, a charming figure who managed guest lists and organized exclusive events. But to those within the inner circle, he was known as something far more significant, a matchmaker of influence, a curator of access, a man who understood that in the world of the ultra-wealthy, the right introduction at the right moment could change everything. The deeper Harry dug, the more the fairy tale dissolved. Those chance meetings that led to their first date. The mutual friend who made the introduction was a long-standing member of Soho House, London. The romantic getaways in the early days of their courtship, they followed a pattern of locations where Anderson's network held sway. Even more troubling were the financial inconsistencies, international flights, designer wardrobes, exclusive accommodations. None of it aligned with a cable television actress's salary. Corporate invoices suggested someone else was funding this lifestyle, investing in an image long before the world knew why it mattered.
Prince Harry mauls his own brother, accuses his father, the new king, of being a liar, even has a dig at his late great-grandmother, the Queen.
The layers of duplicity and shallowness, this is a new low.
You seem to have a lack of empathy for Harry here, and you're
I do, yeah.
You're saying that
I've got zero empathy.
You're saying he's trashing the royal family.
Yeah.
Let's not forget the Oprah performance.
Oh, yeah.
What?
They
What?
did what? These people?
What?
Is a cynical attempt to manipulate viewers into questioning their own recollections of reality.
Harry discovered archived guest lists showing his future wife's presence at Soho house gatherings in Istanbul, Madrid, and Barcelona between 2014 and 2016. These weren't random parties. They were strategic summits where rising stars mingled with established power players, where ambition met opportunity under the guise of champagne and small talk. The same names appearing in those old photos would later surface in Harry's own circle. Donors to his charities, business partners in his ventures. Faces that smiled beside him at galas had been photographed with his wife years before they'd supposedly met. This wasn't coincidence. This was architecture. When Harry examined their wedding guest list with fresh eyes, the pattern became undeniable. Nearly half the attendees from his wife's side had connections to Anderson's network. Brand executives, club directors, social strategists, people who had nothing to do with her acting career but everything to do with her transformation from actress to royal. The ceremony that millions watched as a celebration of modern love now looked like a carefully orchestrated merger. Old voicemails from his brother took on new meaning. Warnings he'd dismissed as jealousy or traditionalism suddenly seemed prophetic. The concern wasn't about breaking protocol or marrying an American. It was about marrying into something far more complex than romance. Inside their private life, Harry began noticing things he'd previously overlooked. Conversations that felt rehearsed, media leaks that matched private discussions word for word, advisors who appeared without explanation, many with ties to the same social circles that had launched his wife's ascent.
Ever-evolving soap opera, that is, of course, what's happening over at Royal Lodge.
The media were unbelievably positive about them. And then, after they got married, it all went wrong. When it comes to compassion and empathy, where's Meghan's been for her own father? She completely disowned him, as she did all her wedding, actually.
I know you've lived it, I've watched it. She's a bully, and her acting career, or whatever she's trying to do, is going to fail, just like everything else she touched.
They should just do what I've said for a few years now. Just take the titles away. Let them get on with being Meghan and Harry celebrities.
What he'd thought was spontaneous love increasingly felt like strategic management. Every public appearance, every interview, every charitable endeavor seemed filtered through a team of handlers who understood image construction better than any palace courtier ever could. The woman he'd married hadn't just escaped the royal machinery. She'd rebuilt it with herself at the center. Where the monarchy relied on tradition and protocol, she employed modern media strategy and narrative control. Where the palace moved slowly, she moved with the speed of social media cycles. Even his own memoir, he realized, bore fingerprints that weren't entirely his own. The voice sounded familiar, but the framing, the emphasis, the careful construction of certain narratives, it all pointed to influence from her expanding team of media consultants. Marcus Anderson remained a constant presence, spotted at private events, credited with introductions, consulted on strategy. The same name that had appeared in those early photos continued to orbit their new life. A reminder that some connections run deeper than marriage certificates. The documentaries and exclusive interviews that followed their departure from royal life weren't just tell-all confessions. They were campaigns. Each revelation carefully timed to counter negative press. Each emotional moment calibrated for maximum impact. When criticism arose, sympathetic profiles appeared. When questions surfaced, rebranding followed. Media insiders later admitted that early drafts of their productions underwent extensive revisions. Scenes were softened, quotes reshaped, narratives restructured until only one version remained. The version that cast his wife as victim, visionary, and voice of change. Harry watched his own public persona transform. His anger became apology, his independence became echo. He was no longer telling his story. He was defending hers. The prince, who'd once rebelled against royal control, found himself serving a different kind of authority, one that operated through influence rather than birthright. The world had been told this was a story of love conquering tradition. But the evidence suggested something else entirely. Not a romance, but a recruitment. Not destiny, but design. Every connection, every introduction, every perfectly timed opportunity had led to this moment. To her admirers, she represents transformation. Proof that ambition and authenticity can coexist. To her critics, she embodies calculation masked as compassion. But to Harry, she remains an enigma. Was their love real, despite the orchestration? Or was the orchestration so complete that even love became part of the performance? The photographs tell one story, the official narrative tells another. But somewhere between the yacht parties and the royal wedding, between the Soho House connections and the Netflix deals, lies a truth that may never fully surface. Because in a world built on image, the person who controls the narrative controls reality. And she had mastered that control long before she ever wore a tiara. The prince had believed he was rescuing an actress from the harsh glare of fame. Instead, the actress had rewritten the entire story, casting herself not just as princess, but as the author of a new kind of power. One that didn't need crowns or titles, just the ability to shape perception. Every fairy tale needs an ending, but this one refuses to conclude neatly. It continues to evolve, each new chapter adding layers to a story that grows more complex with every revelation. The magic hasn't disappeared. It's been revealed as something else entirely. Not the sparkle of destiny, but the careful construction of a narrative so compelling that millions believed it without question. And perhaps that's the most remarkable part of all. In an age of skepticism and fact-checking, she created a story so perfectly crafted that even when the strings become visible, people choose to believe in the performance. Harry knows the truth now, or at least he knows enough to question everything he once accepted. But knowledge and action are different things, because when you've built a life on a story, even a fabricated one, dismantling it means destroying everything that came after. So the performance continues. The interviews, the revelations, the carefully managed public appearances, each one adding another layer to a narrative that has become too big to abandon. The fairy tale may have been an illusion, but the empire built upon it is very real. And in the end, that's what she understood better than anyone. In the modern world, reality is negotiable, truth is flexible, and the person who tells the best story wins. The prince thought he was marrying for love. The actress knew she was marrying for something far more valuable, the chance to write her own ending. And she's been writing it ever since, one calculated chapter at a time. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.